welcome back. You're listening to Conservative Cat. I so do appreciate you being here on a Friday. Good morning. Happy Friday. So do appreciate you guys being here. Go ahead and visit patriotpumpenergy.com. Buy your bottle of premium pre-workout today. No artificial colors. No exorbitant amounts of caffeine or sugar because we're not in the business of trying to get you addicted. We want you to have clean energy to fuel your workouts, to fuel your day. It's a great alternative to those energy drinks out there on the shelves. Visit patriotpumpenergy.com. Use promo code ConservativeCat for $10 off. It's the best promo code out there. We have so much to get to today. Governor Gavin Newsom, what an imbecile. He has a really idiotic response now. He's been on social media. I don't know if he hired new social media directors or a social media team, but they're really nasty. Governor Gavin Newsom's social media team they're just nasty. Whoever is tweeting is a nasty person or nasty people. Okay, so he has a response to Bed Bath & Beyond, and this is what prompted a smackdown, is what I will describe it as. It's a smackdown from the executive chairman of Bed Bath & Beyond, and they've been fighting back and forth on Twitter. I think it's interesting because it calls attention to Governor Gavin Newsom's social media. He also put something on there about Donald Trump, which I will get to in just a second, about the assassination. And they kind of made light of the assassination. And I think it's so gross that his social media team would put that out there, right? And I get it, like memes, whatever, but somebody died that day, right? This was a stain on our nation's history. This was very, it was a tragic day, and tensions were high, anxiety was up amongst the nation, and you had somebody, a firefighter, a public servant, who was loved by his wife and kids, died that day, and they're making light of the assassination attempt with, I think it was like a meme with a bottle of ketchup or something like that. So where Governor Gavin Newsom is holding a bottle of ketchup, it's like it's AI generated, and I get it, jokes, but like also somebody died that day, you sick people. So I'm gonna get to the social media team. That's really why I brought this story to you this morning. I want to bring you this story about the Bed Bath & Beyond response, because it calls attention to like a much greater problem, which is Newsom's social media account. Okay, Cracker Barrel just killed its iconic logo. I didn't get to this yesterday. I had it at the bottom of my list, but it really blew up overnight. I was checking the stock prices of Cracker Barrel yesterday, right before I popped on the show, and I saw that it was dipping down. It's, of course, way down now. The shareholders are probably big mad. But Cracker Barrel, they just killed their iconic logo, but they are doing so much more. I actually know somebody who works at Cracker Barrel. I am a huge Cracker Barrel nut. Like, quite literally, I love Cracker Barrel, everything Cracker Barrel. Like every other Thanksgiving, my family, we do takeout from Cracker Barrel. Like, we are Cracker Barrel fiends. Okay. And I like so much so that I have a friend who bought me a Cracker Barrel crew neck with the logo on it. Now the logo is dead, and I can't really wear the shirt because I'm too pissed off. So Americans, they're out there, they're saying that we lost more than just a barrel with this iconic logo being changed. And I do want to talk about the CEO's response after the backlash. It was ridiculous, and it was just as bad as you'd imagine. Go woke, you go broke. Now, I didn't boycott Cracker Barrel. I did see in 2023, they had like an LGBTQ thing, which I didn't boycott Cracker Barrel after that in 2023. But now probably going to boycott Cracker Barrel, which is really sad. It's not just because they changed the logo. There's other changes going on. Like I said, I have a friend. They said that the peg games are going away. So the peg games, or they're replacing the peg games with a new peg game, and on it you're not going to see, oh, you're a moron or you're ignorant. You only have two, you're a moron. Or if you have one, you're, a genius or something like that. So you guys all know the peg game, and they replaced those because it's mean to call somebody a moron, right? So it's just everything. The that's why I'm boycotting. I mean, they are going beyond just changing the logo. They also have this rebranding campaign called All the More. And we want Cracker Barrel to be for everybody, right? And, I don't know when these companies are going to realize, like, hey, our product isn't for everybody. And, like, that's not how you market. You market your product to a customer, right? Patriot Pump isn't for everybody. I wouldn't recommend it for somebody who's a liberal fatty. No, I'm just kidding. It actually would probably get you off your butt and work out. But I understand the way we branded our product is a Christian conservative brand, and liberals probably won't buy it. And guess what? I'm cool with that. I've got no issues with liberals not buying our product, as a business owner. And I just don't know why these CEOs haven't caught on that, like, niche marketing, finding your customer base and serving your customers is how you are successful. I mean, this is just like business 101. I mean, I'm not even like a huge business person per se, but like, I feel like it's pretty clear you don't alienate your customer base, right? You market to one group of people, one type of people, a product for that person, and you don't alienate that person. All right, Bed Bath & Beyond, let's get to it. Thanks so much for being here. CEO for Cracker Barrel voted for Kamala Harris. Of course she did. I swear to God, if I am, or I shouldn't say that. I can't say that. I get so used to that. That's actually unbiblical, and I didn't realize it. It's in Matthew where it talks about that, where you can't swear to God, let your promises be true promises. But I'm going to be very upset. Let me change it. I'm going to be very upset when I roll out in front of Cracker Barrel and I don't see the rocking chairs anymore, but I see Peloton bikes and yoga balls. I'm going to be very upset. I would not be surprised. I don't know. She just strikes me, the CEO of Cracker Barrel. She strikes me as a Peloton weirdo. Like, she goes on biking, or like the bike classes, and she's just like a oat milk sipping latte Peloton bike riding woman. I don't know why. I think it's the thick rimmed glasses, but every time I see a picture of this woman, I'm like, yeah, she has Peloton classes. So let's talk about Bed Bath & Beyond, guys. We're going to get to Cracker Barrel. Bed Bath & Beyond Executive Chairman Marcus Lemonis announced that his company has no plans to open locations in California, that he's got no plans to do so. He wrote this: "We will not open or operate retail stores in California." In addition to pointing out that the decision wasn't about politics, this guy Marcus, the executive chairman of the company, went on to note that California has created one of the most overregulated, expensive, and risky environments for businesses in America. It's a system that makes it harder to employ people, harder to keep the doors open, and harder to deliver value to customers. Yeah, I mean, this statement is kind of annoying because he goes, it's not about politics. Yeah, well, all of that is about politics. The overregulation, the risky environment to businesses, making it harder to employ people. That is all a direct result of policy. I hate when people are like, oh, I don't do politics. No. If you don't do politics, politics is going to do you. And I hate when people are like, I don't do politics. I stay away from it. Yeah, well, get over it, Sweet Pea, and do it, because politics is going to do you in the end, and you've got to stand up. And I'm glad that he's taking at least a stance and putting it out there that, hey, the reason why we're not owning and operating stores in California is because of the business climate. Glad he's saying that. Other businesses in California have either scaled back, they've closed down, or left the state altogether for similar reasons. We know this. And a lot of people are calling what's going on in California a mass exodus. Stop me if this starts to sound familiar. Yes, this is exactly what goes on in Illinois. Recently, I brought to you, it was, I think, Senate Bill 328. This was the trial lawyer bill. It was a gift to the Trial Lawyers Association, $75,000 over the course of, I think, like 3 years to Senate President Don Harmon. And really what this does, it makes it easier for trial lawyers to take small business owners to court and bring frivolous lawsuits about. So it makes it really hard to operate a business when Sally can sue you, your employee can sue you for not giving her 14 weeks pet bereavement. Okay, for pet bereavement for grieving her kitty cat that died. Okay, so it's the same thing here in the state of Illinois. We're experiencing a mass exodus. We lost a congressional seat. I mean, come on, folks. Stay with me. Marcus, his remarks were made amid an attempt at a comeback of sorts. We know Bed Bath & Beyond. I remember, I think it was back in 2023, they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. This is after they did woke things, too. They went woke, went broke. Chapter 11 bankruptcy. They did in 2023. Okay, the original Bed Bath & Beyond chain shuttered its brick and mortar locations in 2023 and filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. They rebranded by owners Beyond Inc., so Beyond Incorporated, as Bed Bath & Beyond Home. Okay, so they rebranded. Their first location opened this month in Nashville, Tennessee, and the company has plans to open hundreds more in the coming months. Okay, so they rebranded, Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and now they're opening up new stores. Okay, part of the reason why they went broke was because they went woke. So, I mean, I don't feel too bad for them here, but they're trying to make it better. They're trying to kind of make a comeback, and that I can appreciate. I like seeing like a comeback. Everybody loves a good comeback story, and I'd like to see them succeed as long as they don't go woke. Okay, instead of acting like a real leader, and like a real leader should, who was eager, to bring a company to a state where there's a very high demand for jobs. Okay, Newsom, he went on an unhinged social media rant, really, or at least his social media team did. I don't know if this is Governor Gavin Newsom behind. Oh yeah, My Pillow was their downfall. I couldn't remember how they went woke. I remember Bed Bath & Beyond. They stopped selling Mike Lindell's My Pillow, and then shortly after that, I'm not kidding you, their doors closed down. Everybody loves the My Pillows. I have one. I accidentally did not sleep with it last night. I took a little sleep pill last night. And when I do that, if I take like a little sleep aid, I don't know what the hell's going on when I'm sleeping, right? So I reach over and I grab like this old pillow, like that's 14 years old, and my mom gets me a My Pillow like every year for Christmas, and I have way too many pillows. But I reach over and I grab the 14-year-old pillow that is not a My Pillow, and now I have like a kink in my neck, and it really bothers me. But yeah, that would not have happened had I had my pillow and I was sleeping with my pillow. Anyway, so let's get back to the social media post. Sorry, I was derailed for a little bit there. Yeah, so instead of acting like a real leader, he who should be eager to want to bring jobs to his state, right? That would be something a leader would do, want to bring jobs to his state, especially considering the unemployment rate. We're going to get to that here in just a second. But Newsom, he went on this unhinged sort of social media rant, and it was completely, it just makes him look like an imbecile. Okay. Here's what Newsom said in a tweet. The company already went bankrupt and closed every store across the country 2 years ago. Okay. That's what he said. That's all he said in a tweet. And then in another, he bashed House Speaker Kevin McCarthy from California. He's the Republican, former House Speaker. Sorry, Kevin McCarthy. He was a former Republican House Speaker in California, and he kind of like criticized Governor Gavin Newsom's response to Bed Bath & Beyond here, where he was like, didn't you go bankrupt like 2 years ago? That's what Governor Gavin Newsom said on Twitter. And then McCarthy, he kind of criticized that reaction. And he said, quote, next he's going to announce, or this is what Gavin Newsom said in response to Kevin McCarthy, who was critical of his reaction, of Governor Gavin Newsom's reaction to Bed Bath & Beyond. Here's what Gavin Newsom replied to the criticism. He says next, he's going to announce that Blockbuster wants to move back to California too. Okay. So his press office posted this. After their bankruptcy and closure of every store, like most Americans, we thought Bed Bath & Beyond no longer existed. We wish them well in their efforts to become relevant again as they try to open up a second store. Okay, so that is what their press office officially released. Now, of course, Gavin Newsom is acting like a baby on Twitter. And I have to, I'm going to double check this because I just still can't believe that his social media team posted this. And I'm going to have to pull up the picture of him with the ketchup bottle. And I don't know, there's something really, I mean, this is, I think that it's real. And I've tried to prove it wrong. And I'll have to pull up the memes. I'll do it here in just a second. But Governor Gavin Newsom, he posted some memes about the assassination attempt on President Donald Trump's life, where they posted a picture of Gavin Newsom with a patch over his ear, and then they posted a picture of Gavin Newsom with a ketchup bottle in his hand. It was AI generated memes. And I can't stress this enough that it's so nasty. It's disgusting. It really makes my stomach churn because somebody died on that day, on that July, in that at that rally in Pennsylvania. It's truly tragic day. Our entire country was on the edge of their seat. Everybody was really anxious, and this guy who died was a public servant. He was a firefighter who was loved by his wife and children, and his face was blown off by the assassin, or by this attempted assassin of President Donald Trump, but he's a killer. And I'm just so disgusted by Gavin Newsom's social media team. If they think that this is going to win them the presidency in 2028, good luck with that. Dumb, clueless, and childish is what I would use. Those are the words I would use to sum up Gavin Newsom's social media team. They're dumb, they're clueless, and they're childish. So Marcus himself, the executive chairman of Bed Bath & Beyond, had the best comeback. Okay, so after the press office releases that, and Newsom, takes stabs at the chairman, and then took stabs at Kevin McCarthy, the former House Speaker, for criticizing Gavin Newsom's reaction to Bed Bath & Home's announcement that they weren't going to be opening up stores in California. Marcus, he had a comeback, suggesting in so many words that it's pretty astonishing that instead of looking at ways to attract investment and capital, Newsom is rejecting that. Okay, so here is what the executive chairman shot back with. He says, well, I think the thing that was surprising to me was that I tried to articulate in a non-aggressive way. Yes, when I read the statement, the original statement of the executive chairman, it was kind of milquetoast. He goes, I'm not trying to talk about politics or anything, but California is really hard to do business in. It was kind of milquetoast. It was weak. So it was definitely non-aggressive. Exactly why our company, this is what Marcus says, the executive chairman, wasn't going to invest capital in California. What I found out this afternoon was that Governor Newsom had enough time to respond to a tweet to remind everyone in America that in 2023, the company went out of business. Now we are trying to make a comeback, and I would think that the governor would want to attract investment and attract capital into the state. In fact, he did the opposite. He rejected it. So let's take a listen to this clip. Here we go.
Well, I think the thing that was really surprising to me is that I tried to articulate in a non-aggressive way exactly why our company wasn't going to reinvest capital in California. And what I found out this afternoon is that Governor Newsom has enough time to respond to a tweet as opposed to a private DM or having somebody reach out, to remind everybody in America that in 2023, before we bought the intellectual property, that the company went out of business. We all know that Bed Bath went out of business a few years ago. Now we're trying to make a comeback. And I would think that a governor would want to attract investment, attract capital into the state. In fact, he did the opposite. He rejected it. It's a very simple model for me. As a capitalist myself, I want to do business in all 50 states, and I want to do business with all people of all political parties. That's part of being a capitalist. But what I don't want to do is put my shareholders, my employees, and myself in a situation where we're regulated to a zero. And we don't want to spend $100 million coming into California and then find out that the state's going to take it all and waste it all.
Okay. So that was the executive chairman. Well, the governor and his staff, they mock the company as they try to bounce back. There are some things that you have to keep in mind about California under Gavin Newsom's leadership, and I am using air quotes here, leadership. I'm using that term very loosely. There are some things we have to keep in mind about his leadership, just to emphasize the outright jackassery of their responses. Okay, so some things you got to keep in mind. The unemployment rate, record unemployment rate they've got going on. They've got record theft. Let me pull up some of the numbers. The unemployment rate is 5.5% worse in the US. So yeah, it rised to 5.5%. It is brutal out there, according to some US tech industries. So yeah, like this just emphasizes how outright insane their responses are to Bed Bath & Beyond. They should literally be falling over their feet to bring businesses to the state because they have record unemployment, 5.5% unemployment rate. That's the highest in the nation. But yeah, go ahead. Keep letting your social media team slay queen, slay, on social media, keep acting like you're a big tough guy on social media there, Governor Gavin Newsom. You're doing a great job. God. All right. Welcome to the Conservative Cat Show. Go ahead and smash that like button. Share this out with your friends. Gosh, let's get to Cracker Barrel, shall we? The CEO of Cracker Barrel wants to decolonize the store. Libs hate colonization. Yeah. Getting to some of your lots of bankruptcies. Remember Oberweis Dairy, bankruptcy last year. Oberweis is now Hartman Oberweis Dairy. Okay. So your comments, always leave a comment. You guys can super chat to support the program if you'd like. Super chat to support the program. Any kind of support you provide the program, whether that be through patriotpumpenergy.com or through super chat, it goes right back into the show, folks. We really want to launch, and we just aren't there yet, theconservativecat.com, where I can post blog posts for you. We'll do, breaking news, some inside scoops, some exclusives around the state of Central Illinois. And we want to be able to do that. It's just we haven't been able to pull the trigger because we need more support. So always support the program. So this is a Conservative Cat Show where the biscuits are buttered with the truth, the gravy is poured with liberty, and the coffee is served strong enough to make Karl Marx roll around in his grave. Today we are talking about a little piece of Americana that has been tinkered with. That is Cracker Barrel. So this used to be a place of refuge, really, for road trippers, truckers, families who still know how to pray before a meal. And they are getting a modern makeover is the best way I can describe this. The trendy burger joints where burgers are like $40 and the bar stools are very uncomfortable and the ceilings are black. I hate this millennial burger kind of revamp that happens. It's just so stupid. They've done it to Pizza Hut. They've done it to McDonald's. They do these revamps and it makes them like trendy and ugly and typically more expensive. So I'm not excited. And I should have known this was going to happen because they started to bring alcohol serve alcohol. And once they started to serve alcohol, I was like, yeah, I have a feeling that this place is going to wind up doing a rebrand, because, you know, the whole point of it not being a place of serving alcohol, it's a roadside refuge. So you can't really drink and drive, right? So road trippers, travelers, truckers would stop in and just have some breakfast or a bite to eat. And you get the crackle of the fireplace. It's a place to escape. But I should have known when they started to serve alcohol that they were going to probably go a different direction. Okay, so you've probably heard everything on TikTok or on social media. You probably have noticed that, you know, Cracker Barrel changed its iconic logo. They stripped away the old man in the rocking chair and the actual barrel in its logo. Okay, that's right. This nostalgic logo, I mean, it's been around, I think, for like 50 years, and they replaced it with a sleek corporate rebranding logo. It looks like, you know, a teenager made it in Canva. Okay, so let's start with the logo change. For the first time in almost half a century, the logo is just text. Okay, modern, boring, and it looks like an oat milk sipping 17-year-old crank this out in 5 minutes on Canva. Okay, and they are saying that it's rooted more closely to the barrel shape. So like the yellow in the barrel is more like barrel shaped, and it's closer to the word mark that started it all. Like it's like it's just better, and they're trying to like say that the logo is better. What else is this rooted in? A marketing department that hasn't probably set foot. I bet the CEO hasn't even eaten at Cracker Barrel. They haven't set foot in a real Cracker Barrel since their last HR diversity meeting. Okay, that is what their marketing department is like. Okay, these are 17-year-olds who probably have would be caught dead in a Cracker Barrel, and they sip on their $7 oat milk latte from Starbucks. Okay, and they would never step foot in a Cracker Barrel and drink the black coffee that has been there for, you know, far too long. It tastes a little burnt. They would never do that. And that is what the logo looks like. Okay? It looks like it was created by people who have never been there. So Cracker Barrel used to mean something. The leaning on the barrel was actually not just like clip art. It wasn't like, you know, just a silly little, you know, clip art thing. This was a symbol of rest, tradition, Americana, and it's about pulling off the interstate and stepping back in time, where the fireplace crackled, the checkers were there, the checkerboard was waiting for you, and the walls were covered with farm tools that your grandpa would use. That's what Cracker Barrel was all about. And now it's kind of gone to this modern, maybe like farmhouse aesthetic. Translation: cheap knockoff decor, bright lights, menus that read like a Food Network experiment gone wrong. Corporate America can't help themselves. They always think they're smarter than tradition. And there's a bigger issue at play here. It's not just about the logo, it's about the nostalgia being erased in the name of progress. There was a woman who told the Wall Street that her 14-year-old son was devastated that Cracker Barrel had remodeled. Of course, the kids love Cracker Barrel. They love the checkerboard. They love all the crap on the walls. They love it. The teenager wanted the nostalgia, wanted the tradition, wanted something that felt old, that felt real. Okay. And that should tell you something. You know, even the younger generation craves authenticity, craves tradition. But what do they get? They get these sleek fonts, mood lighting, and a fall menu rollout that looks like Panera Bread rather than a Cracker Barrel. This is like very trendy, very modern, like menu rollout. And if you ask me, you know, when you walk into a Cracker Barrel, you want butter pecan French toast bake, right? You want something straight to the point. It's got cheesecake filling, not this whatever they rolled out. It says Uncle Herschel's favorite with sawmilk gravy. Like that was a something on their fall menu roll out. It just sounds weird. Okay. One thing that I like about Cracker Barrel, it just seems like their menus are a little straight to the point. And, these trendy places, they try to get fancy with the menu and the menu names. And it's just so annoying. And then they've got brown sugar lattes. I like the bottomless cup of black coffee that tastes like it's been sitting on the burner for a little too long. Tastes like it's been sitting on the burner since Reagan was president. And I like that. And a lot of people do. This, my friends, it's a cultural erosion disguised as rebranding. You chip away at the little things, and pretty soon the big things are gone too. Okay. First, it's the core, then it's the logo, the menu, and then before long, the whole identity of the place is going to be unrecognizable. And they're probably going to change the food too. She was asked about it. We're going to get to that, the CEO on Good Morning America, about the food, and she kind of dodged the question. Most likely, it's going to wind up being a trendy burger joint that serves draft beer. And I'm just so sick of those types of places. I don't know about you. Now, don't get me wrong. I know businesses evolve. But what's happening at Cracker Barrel feels more like what's been happening across America, where companies feel like they have to like constantly reinvent themselves to please, influencers and their marketing consultants. This is not making their shareholders very happy because their stock is going down, like it's taking a nosedive. And they don't actually serve the people. See, and there's a trend here in government. They don't actually serve the people. They don't listen to the people, but they listen to the lobbyists and the interest groups and things like that. And they don't listen to the people who have kept them alive and in business for all this time. So the rebrand is part of what's called All the More campaign, and they are positioning themselves for the future. Translation, this is corporate speak for, we don't want a place that looks like it's a place for Christian conservatives or country folk. We don't want country folk to feel at home anymore. That's what that translates to. We want all the more, and we want, everybody to be here. And here's the kicker. They brought out Jordan Davis, who's a country music star, to sell this little makeover, and they've got the promos and the ads, and I keep getting served the ads. And it's just so annoying because it's like, yeah, I like Jordan Davis. I like his music. But I see the gain here. What they're trying to do is strip away all the tradition, and then they're going to wheel out a trendy pop country singer to try to reassure us that, hey, everything's still, Southern and down home and country. And it's just annoying. So this is what the Bible calls wolves in sheep's clothing. They wheel out Jordan Davis, and they think that, we're just going to go away. Keep the biscuits, keep the rocking chairs up front. And, behind the scenes, what we're going to do, we're going to be building a place that feels like a showroom, feels like a Target. And then we're, quietly going to take away the biscuits and the rocking chair, and they won't even notice. So I want to bring this home biblically, because scripture tells us to hold fast to what is good. So tradition is often demonized by the left and by modern society. They demonize tradition. God forbid a woman stays at home and takes care of her children, right? They demonize that. God forbid you homeschool and you take care of your children and you teach them and you don't send them away to a day camp, right, for 8 hours a day. God forbid you do something like that. Tradition is something to be honored, and the Bible speaks of this. That's why so many people are upset over Cracker Barrel. It's not so much, the logo and the barrel and the guy and like the rocking chairs and all the material of it. It's the principle and the fact that it's biblical to honor tradition. And Cracker Barrel represented family, comfort, stability, and yes, American values, American feel, country folk feel. And it kind of reminds us who we are as Americans. This corporation, they're tinkering with tradition, and they're tinkering with really something much bigger. It's the people's identity, the people's memories. And, the Bible speaks about this in Proverbs 28, okay? Chapter 22, verse 28. Do not remove the ancient landmark which your fathers have set. Wow. So here we are watching landmarks. I mean, this is just another, cherry on top of the sundae. They bulldoze landmarks one by one by one by one. Okay. So it might just be a restaurant, but it's also a sign of the times we're in. And like I said, leftism is just anti-Christian. Like, they are so unoriginal. They just take Proverbs 20:22 and they say, all right, how can we be the opposite of Christianity? It says, do not remove the ancient landmarks of which your fathers have said. Okay, let's remove all tradition. That's what the left is all about. It's anti-Christianity. So folks, what's the lesson here? Do not let corporate America convince you that tradition is outdated. Don't let slick logos, flashy campaigns sell you the lie that old ways aren't good enough. Okay, the old ways are just fine. Don't let nostalgia be turned into a dirty word. You can enjoy a new menu item or two. I'm not against evolving or making yourself better. I'm not against that. But this is not what's going on at Cracker Barrel. Okay. So let's talk about the CEO really quick, and then I do want to shift gears. I'm going to take a quick break, but smash that like button, share this out with your friends. A little bit later, we are going to be talking about Pritzker's prisons transparency law. Okay. So there's a new bill out there that he signed into law, and I'm going to ask you the question, is this going to be a truth bomb? Are we going to get to actually see the data? So this is going to require the Illinois Department of Corrections to publish data on contraband, medical emergencies that happen within their prisons, substance abuse that happens within their prisons. Can't believe this wasn't a thing before where they didn't have to publish data. All they had to do is kind of publish like a report at the end of the year, but they didn't have to use actual hard data. Now this law requires them to do that. I'm worried that, yeah, it could be an awesome truth bomb, but it could also be used for political posturing. Oh, well, this facility here, this Department of Corrections facility here has more contraband than this facility. And, this facility happens to lie in a Democrat district. I want more money for this prison. And then the taxpayers are going to have to be, paying for one prison over another. I mean, I feel like the data could be weaponized because I don't trust Springfield. I don't trust Illinois lawmakers. I want the data because I really want to know how bad it is in our prisons. We know it's bad. It's just going to confirm what our COs, our correctional officers have been saying, that there's a rise in violence, that there's a rise in contraband, that there's a rise in medical emergencies and substance abuse. It's all going to confirm that, the data, and I'm all about the numbers and facts. However, we know what the Democrats will do with those facts. They will weaponize it. They will cause funding inequalities, I would imagine, using this data. And, I'm worried about it. I'm scared that it's just going to wind up being a political scam once they publish this data. So we're going to get to that. And then, of course, the Illinois parents who erupted after a trans athlete steals the sport from girls who wanted to be on this volleyball team. So he stole a spot from the girls on this volleyball team because he tried out, he made it. And this is happening in northern Illinois near Hoffman Estates. So parents went to a school board meeting and the parents completely erupted and blasted the school's policy. Not so much the transgender individual. Okay. The parents weren't blasting the trans kid. Okay. They were blasting the policy that allows for boys to be in girls' sports and boys to be in girls' locker rooms. All right. I'm going to be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat.
Check your blind spots. Men love to call things out. Weakness, hypocrisy, failure. We're wired to spot threats and take action. But Jesus didn't say, never judge. He said, judge not, that you be not judged. Why? Because judgment without humility is a trap. It turns you into a sniper with a log jammed in your eye. Matthew 7 hits hard. Jesus calls out a man who sees a speck in his brother's eye, but ignores the plank in his own. He's not saying, don't correct. He's saying, clean your lens first. Self-examination before confrontation. It takes guts to get real with your own sin, to admit you've gone soft, to face your pride, lust, laziness, or bitterness head on. But that's what real men do. They sharpen themselves before they sharpen others. Jesus didn't just want behavior police. He wanted heart warriors. Men who get the plank out, then humbly help a brother see clearly. Men who don't just flex spiritual authority, but walk with spiritual maturity. In verse 6, it's about discernment. Don't toss holy things to pigs. Don't waste truth on ears that mock it. Know when to speak. Know when to walk away. Before you blast through your next workout, check your form. Same with life. Patriot Pump fuels clean, focused energy, but you've still got to show up. Power with purpose. Clarity with strength. That's how you train. That's how you lead.
Hey, go ahead and smash that like button. Share this out with your friends. I so do appreciate you being here. Let's go ahead and get to the CEO and her comments on Good Morning America. So the Cracker Barrel CEO, Julie Masino, okay, she responded to the backlash against the company's bizarre woke rebrand. So she has a response, and it is as bad as you would imagine. Speaking to ABC's Good Morning America, the anchor, Michael Strahan, and Masino, was asked by the anchor of the show about the videos on social media that have of course been slamming the redesign of the logo and their rebrand. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
Good morning, America. Hurricane Aaron forcing evacuations, the high-stakes summit over Ukraine, and the surprise return on Sports Center. Hurricane Aaron on the move.
Oops, sorry. I've got to find the this is the whole program. I've got to try to find the clip of her talking about this. How did this happen? Well, that's okay. Here's what I'm going to do. I have another clip. Okay, so I'll summarize what you said there with Strahan. She pretty much reflected on the decision the company had made about a year ago. And that's actually when, if you look at their stock and you've looked at stock trends, about a year ago is when it really started to take a dip. So they made the decision about a year ago to change the inside of the restaurants and change the look of the inside of the restaurants. They're going to remove the down-home country look for something more modern, and they're changing the menu. And she said that the remodels, they were responding to what the guests were saying, and that is why they are doing the remodels. And she said, quote, "We're doing this for them, the customers, okay, and the guests at Cracker Barrel." And she was asked about the menu change by Michael Strahan, and he said, "Is the food going to be changing?" And she kind of dodged this question. Instead, her response was, innovation has proven to be really great at Cracker Barrel, and she said that they have come up with a new dinner menu and that they were reinvigorating their dinner menu. So really, that's woke speak for yes, we are going to be changing the menu. Yes, we probably won't be serving the same food that has kept people coming back for years. The Cracker Barrel has been around for a long time. And then she was asked why Cracker Barrel is making all of these changes. And Michael Strahan asked her why, and she pretty much gave corporate speak. And she said, quote, "Cracker Barrel needs to feel more like a Cracker Barrel for today and tomorrow." For today and for tomorrow. Oh, God. gosh, she did not fail. She provided a corporate speak response, and it's got to be all the more for everybody. All this diversity crap, and really, it's corporate speak for, and I'll translate. We don't want anybody who looks like a Christian conservative or a country folk or white people to enjoy Cracker Barrel anymore. We don't want the American culture to exist anymore in Cracker Barrel. So Strahan then asked the CEO about the new look and how it prompted a lot of videos on social media and how people have been slamming it. I mean, there's tons of memes out there, okay? And she just kind of brushed it off. She goes, actually, the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. I don't know who the hell you're talking to, lady. Nobody seems to like this. Democrats and Republicans alike, actually. Democrat Gavin Newsom came out and talked about it, and he said that they should change it back. So Democrats and Republicans alike, there's people on both sides of the aisle, left, right, Republican, they don't like the change. So I don't know who she's talking to. I'd imagine the marketing consultants. So during an interview a year ago, now this was a year ago, where she was on with Jim Cramer, CNBC, she admitted that the company menu changes were made with input from people who love Cracker Barrel and people who have never stepped inside of a Cracker Barrel. So the menu changes, she admitted, came from input from people who never even eaten at a Cracker Barrel before, which is just wild to me that she admitted this on air. Take a listen.
Innovation that we're focused on right now is really about things that we've heard from guests in the research for the last year. So we talked to people who love Cracker Barrel, people who've never been to Cracker Barrel. That's really the foundation of this plan that we put together. How do we make sure that we appeal to people who love us because we want them to keep loving us, but how do we welcome even more people into the brand? So we embarked on the largest menu test in the history of the brand, over 20 items, Jim. So huge shout out to my ops team for learning those items, getting rid of some items, and really welcoming them into the Cracker Barrel family. Some of them are such great successes that we're actually going to go ahead and launch them on August 6th, company-wide.
Really?
So things like, we've got a delicious chicken and rice, we've got a wonderful savory pot roast dish, and then a signature hash brown casserole, shepherd's pie riff on that hash brown casserole.
Now, do I still want to walk through merchandise and get to it? And that still works, right?
Yes.
You've been able to keep the price points correct. Everything got so inflated in the last 4 years.
Look, one of the things Cracker Barrel is known for is our great value. And all that research that we did to really build the plan.
All right, I'm done with that. I'm getting annoyed. They will learn. They will never learn. Go woke and go broke, says Angela. Yep, they're never going to learn. So here's what people on X are saying, which is kind of funny. Here's what Joel Berry, the managing editor of the Babylon Bee, said. He said, it's like Cracker Barrel was taken over by Dolores Umbridge from Harry Potter. Remember the creepy woman? Yeah, she really freaks me out. I would imagine that on her weekend, she spends her time on a Peloton bike, and she looks like one of those weighted vest ladies, that speed walks around her suburban neighborhood, and she gets her $7 oat milk latte, and yeah, she looks like one of those people. So yeah, it looks like Cracker Barrel was taken over by Dolores Umbridge. This is lame and gay, said somebody on X. I love it. Change it back. Purge all the woke idiots from your company before it's too late. Don't sell out like this. Another person suggested that Cracker Barrel's woke rebrand was akin to Bud Light's disaster when they recruited the trans-identifying biological male influencer, male Dylan Mulvaney. Yeah, it's close to it. At least they didn't have some guy with fake boobs, like a transgender with fake boobs, playing checkers right outside of Cracker Barrel and saying, "Oh, all is more, all the more." At least they didn't do that, or have a drag queen on top of the fireplace or right there by the fireplace poking fire or something. They could have gone way further with it. I'm glad they didn't go as far as they did with the Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light thing. Somebody said about the Dylan Mulvaney, they said, love the new logo, not Bud Light, hashtag Bud Light. Yeah, so I mean, it is pretty close to the Bud Light thing. People are going to boycott. I am actually. So, fun fact, I'm actually drinking an iced tea from Cracker Barrel right now. I didn't drink it, like I bought it a few days ago, and I didn't drink it, and I threw it in my fridge, and I'm drinking it now because I need iced tea. But that's the last of me going to Cracker Barrel. Like I said, I would go all the time. It's real sad. The redesign, I didn't boycott Cracker Barrel after the 2023 debacle. Okay, so the redesign is only the latest in a series of unfortunate decisions made by the company, which was founded in 1969 in Tennessee, Lebanon, Tennessee. So in 2023, a lot of people don't know this. They jumped off the Cracker Barrel bandwagon. I did not, because I sometimes boycott, I sometimes don't. For me, it didn't go far enough, and I was like, I really like Cracker Barrel, but now I'm jumping off. But they jumped onto the LGBTQ bandwagon in 2023, and they had a rainbow-colored pride logo, or like logo on their website, and then they had the pride rocking chairs outside, so they were rainbow colored. I think it was like during the month of June in 2023, something like that. So they put the rainbow colored like logo on their website in 2023. Here's what they wrote on the website: Cracker Barrel is not hiding its goals to become more inclusive. They, of course, put under their diversity and inclusion tab on their website. So they added a diversity and inclusion tab on their website. Our teams work hard to create a culture of hospitality that's welcoming, respectful, and inclusive of everyone who walks through our doors. Our food, our decor celebrate warm memories of the past, and our inclusive culture and beliefs help us make way for an even brighter future together. Aw, how sweet. Discrimination, overt though unconscious bias, has no place at Cracker Barrel Old Country Store. So dumb. So dumb. So that happened in 2023. So this isn't like anything like that should shock us. They were kind of making the move anyway a couple of years ago to go woke, but they're definitely going to feel it now. They're going to go broke. They're losing a lot of business from me. So, because I go all the time. I love Cracker Barrel. So sad. Let's talk about Governor J.B. Pritzker, shall we? Pritzker's prison transparency law. Kind of concerned about this, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Conservative Cat. If you're just tuning in, this is where the truth still matters, liberty is defended, and where corruption is exposed. This is a place where we put Christ at the center of the conversation. No matter what Springfield and Washington thinks about that, we will always put Christ at the center of our conversations. Today, we are digging into something that the politicians don't want to touch. That is Illinois prisons. So Governor J.B. Pritzker, he just signed Senate Bill 2201, which requires the Department of Corrections, the Illinois Department of Corrections, to publish annual data on contraband, overdoses, and medical emergencies and substance abuse treatment inside our state's prisons. Sounds good, right? Now, on paper, it sounds all great. Sounds like transparency, even, you would say. And it sounds like accountability. That sounds great. But here at the Conservative Cat Show, you guys know, my audience, you guys are kind of above the mainstream audiences, and you're kind of above that. You guys know better here in the state of Illinois. Nothing is ever clean, as clean as it looks on the press release. Okay. This might look really clean and nice on paper. It might even look like a transparency bill. I'm nervous about it. I really want the data. Like if this were to come across my desk, I would have voted for it as a Republican. If I were a state senator, or if I were representative, House rep, okay, I would have voted yes. And but that doesn't take away the fact that I am skeptical of the consequences of this bill. So let's buckle in. Let's unpack what this law really means and what it says about the corruption of the Illinois Department of Corrections. This arm, I don't know. I am not a handy person, and I've got to get a screwdriver or something. The arm of my microphone keeps whacking me in the face. Sorry, squirrel. It's Friday. So we are going to be talking about how the Pritzker administration up to this point and the DOC has been obsessed with really hiding data. I mean, at this point, if they haven't published data, up to this point. I mean, to me, that's just hiding data. Why the hell weren't you guys required to publish the data to begin with? It seems kind of odd. Yeah, so we are going to demand transparency on this show. The people should demand transparency. And I don't think our politicians should pretend to give it. They should actually give transparency, okay? So let's start with the basics of Senate Bill 2201. That's where we're at today. Okay, so it says that the Illinois Department of Corrections must publish annual reports on contraband, overdoses, substance abuse treatment, and emergency medical calls inside their state prisons. Okay, so think about that. For decades, up to this point, the state has been operating some of the most violent, secretive prison systems, I think, in the country. And they have not been required to publish data, up to this point annually. Okay, now they do annual reports every year. I think that the bill should go even further. It should require them on a monthly basis to publish that data. Okay, and keep a kind of log of an updated log of the medical emergencies, the contraband, the overdoses. They should be logging it every month and trying to get better every single month. They're saying, oh, don't worry, we're going to put out a report every year. That's kind of like a fox guarding the hen house and promising to issue chicken safety reports. Do you trust it? I don't really trust the IDOC's ability to publish data on a yearly basis. Most likely they're not even going to do it. This is a nice bill, and it'd be great if they actually complied with it. And if they don't comply with it, what the hell are the repercussions of that, or the punitive punishment for not complying with this law? We don't know yet. Most likely they're not going to comply, but we'll have to see, right? Senator Jason Plummer, he's a Republican. He's one of the very few willing to stand up in the Senate against the machine. And he put it bluntly. He said that transparency is something that the officers want. Okay, so now one thing that somebody might say would be, hey, this data, if it's published, it might cause correctional officers to leave one facility for another. So say like contraband is really, really high at this state prison, but it's kind of really low at this state prison. If I'm a correctional officer, I might even move my family if it's easier for me to work in a prison that has fewer medical emergencies, fewer violent incidences, fewer contraband incidences. Like I might move my family and go to a different prison altogether. So there's a risk of demoralizing the staff when you publish data. There could be a risk. Now, here's the thing, though. A lot of the correctional staff, they want the data. And that's what Plummer says. He says, because they're the ones living really this every single day. So, of course, they want the data. And really what the data is going to confirm is everything that they've been saying and living through, for decades, right? And it's really been on the rise, I'd say, the last few years, 5, 6, 7 years. It's been on the rise. So they've been saying for years that assaults are skyrocketing, drugs are rampant in our prisons, and morale is in the basement. The correctional officers, there's very low morale as it is anyway. So the data is not going to make it worse. It's just going to confirm what they're already experiencing. So we don't really have to worry about demoralizing staff because they're already pretty demoralized. Like the only way to go up the only place to go from here is up. Okay, because it's hit rock bottom, our state's prisons. Plummer also hit the nail on the head when he talks about the Pritzker administration. He's quoted saying, the Pritzker administration is the least transparent in Illinois history. Now that's saying something. Here in Illinois, we need like a Guinness World Record book, and we need like a category on corrupt politicians and politicians who hide data, politicians who aren't transparent. Like we would need a Guinness World Record book. And that's really saying something to say that the Pritzker administration is the least transparent in Illinois history. You guys know, we talked about it recently, George Ryan taking bribes, DMV workers taking bribes, then funneling it into George Ryan's campaign. He went to prison for that. George Ryan in the 1990s for illegal immigrants and CDLs, which is so fascinating, by the way. I was talking about this yesterday and derailed for a second here. I'll get back to the IDOC story. But Donald Trump, his transportation secretary, Sean Duffy, they're launching an investigation into White Hawk Carrier, which is the company. And yesterday I talked about the visas. They actually suspended, Marco Rubio announced this, suspended giving out visas to truckers. Okay. So H-1B visas, that would be included in that. And we talked about this at length yesterday, and it's archived if you want to see the show. But I'm glad the Trump administration is seeing this for what it is. And it's a national security issue. They haven't come out and said that, but their actions say everything, right? Sean Duffy, they're launching an investigation into the company. They're also suspending visas. So that means that the Trump administration is taking this seriously and that they are taking it as a national security issue. We cannot have foreign carriers, these trucking companies, open up operations, skirt regulation, and try to take over the U.S. trucking industry, because ultimately what could happen is you have these countries like Serbia, Croatia, Turkey. You know, Turkey has an alliance with Iran, who's an adversary of ours. We don't want these companies taking over our trucking, because one day they could say, all right, shut it all down. And then boom, America is crippled. Like, this is an act of war. That's what I see. That's where I see this headed. Like, quite literally, it could be an act of war if they manage to gobble up a certain percentage of our trucking industry. Sorry, derailed a real quick second. I brought up President Donald Trump. And I don't even know how I got on that topic, but I want to come back to Senate Bill 2201. This is the IDOC bill that was signed into law. And the heart of the issue here of passing this is contraband. It requires the IDOC to publish data on contraband within their state prisons. And we're not talking a few cigarettes that are smuggled in, okay? We're talking fentanyl. We're talking letters, physical mail that is soaked in chemicals for them to huff and smoke. And the facilities, the air smells literally like smoke because they're lighting up in their cells. That is what's going on in state prisons. It's really bad. Talk to any correctional officer. Correctional officers say that the contraband is getting in via the letters and the physical mail. I don't doubt that. But like at this point, a lot of people, the way they communicate with their loved ones in prison is through a tablet or through phone. It's very rare where come on, nobody's really sending snail mail. First of all, I don't doubt that it is coming in through the letters, though. You know, I bet that is a huge problem, like a problem. Okay, now how huge is it? We don't really know because we don't have the data. We got to get the data and figure out how this is coming in. So a good part of this bill is that the contraband, not only do they have to count the contraband, but they have to provide data points about how that contraband gets in, whether it's via visitors or outside contractors. But here's the truth. If Springfield wanted to shut it down, the contraband right now, if they wanted to, they could. They could implement things like scanning systems. So scanning the mail, making sure that there's no chemicals on it. There could be stricter controls. There could definitely be accountability measures. It might seem punitive. It might seem unfair at first. But we are in desperate times. So desperate times call for desperate measures. So let's crack down on it and worry about the inmates. I mean, I feel like safety at some point has to take priority over the comfort of inmates. Okay. Safety of those inmates. It's not supposed to be a 5-star hotel, okay, or resort. The safety is the most important. Hey, let's stop these people from dying, okay? And then we'll worry about if they get their birthday card from grandma, okay? So I feel like if they wanted to crack down on this right now, they could, even without the data. They could crack down on it. I mean, you will have criminal justice reform groups screaming at the sky and freaking out. But desperate times call for desperate measures. And I feel like safety should be the number one priority. And then everything comes after that. And I'm not saying that inmates shouldn't have letters from grandma. Like, of course, we should treat them as human beings. But instead, what does Illinois do? They deny until the problem has become, at this point, too big to ignore. It's become impossible to ignore, and that is why Governor J.B. Pritzker signed this law. So here's what I want to remind everyone biblically. The book of Numbers, chapter 32, verse 23 says, "Be sure your sin will find you out." So the Pritzker administration can play games with the data all they want, which I'd imagine Pritzker and his administrative allies and his legislative allies, they're going to play games with this data. They're going to say like, oh, well, this facility has a lot of like medical emergencies, which might be, could be a lot of reasons for that, right? Maybe this facility happens to have an older population. 65, the average age of this population is 65. Of course, there's going to be more medical emergencies if the population in that prison is, older. But then they're going to use that. They're going to say, well, they need more resources. And by resources, we mean taxpayer funds. And I could imagine legislative allies of Governor J.B. Pritzker showboating or doing like political stunts or playing politics where they secure funding for a facility. I could imagine Republicans doing this too, where they secure funding for a facility in their district and they use it as a re-election tactic. I could see that happening. But be sure your sin will find you out. Okay, so everybody can try to hide the truth, but the truth always comes out. You can bury reports, you can hide data, you can manipulate data, you can weaponize data, but in the end, the truth always comes out and somebody's always watching. It's him. So the truth is our prisons are overflowing with drugs, violence, and corruption. And I hope that the data reveals that. And I hope that we can craft good, honest policy from it and not just craft policy for the sake of crafting policy. And I hope that we can craft good, honest policy that will actually do something and help the problem. So as Christians, how should we look at this? We know prisons aren't supposed to be luxury resorts. Okay. Romans 13 reminds us that government has a sword for a reason, to punish evil and maintain order. But the Bible also speaks about justice, truth, and accountability. If Illinois' prisons are plagued with violence and overdoses, that's not justice, that's chaos. Okay. And we need order. And when the state hides that chaos, that's corruption. And our correctional officers, many of them working class men and women from small towns across America or across Illinois, they are being assaulted and they are being disrespected and they are being left without backup. They are understaffed and they deserve the truth about what exactly is going on. They deserve the data points. They deserve leadership and they deserve a system that actually works. So the inmates also deserve this information. They deserve the data points. While they're serving their sentences, they are still human beings, right? And many of them need Christ. Many of them need real treatment, and they're not going to get that real treatment and real solutions if data isn't published. Okay, so they need the data just as much as the correctional officers, just as much as you and I need the data, because we need to know that our prisons are operating flawlessly, right? And operating as best as they can. Okay. And that's not to say incidents won't happen, but what's going on right now are incidences. It's a culture. So how can they ever find redemption, these inmates, if the state buries its failures and pretends everything's fine? They're never going to get the help that they need if the state just keeps burying the issues and burying the failures. Good public policy should come out of these data points. And I really hope politicians don't use the data, use this data to showboat and to get themselves reelected. I hope that they actually use it to craft meaningful policy. Okay, so let's cut to the chase. Why did Governor J.B. Pritzker sign this bill? Because the pressure was really high. Bottom line, it's getting too big to not address. Staff has been blowing the whistle. Advocacy groups, even the criminal justice reform groups, the leftist groups, they are documenting the chaos. The Illinois media, even the friendly ones, they're not able to ignore the overdoses, the violence, and the lack of data coming out of the IDOC at this point. So what does Pritzker have to do? He has to sign this bill to make him look like a champion of transparency. But we know that they will weaponize this data. We have to hold their feet to the fire and make sure that they don't weaponize the data for their own political interests. Here's the kicker. His own administration has created this lack of transparency in the first place. Okay. They've created this culture, and now all of a sudden he signs this bill. I don't buy it. I bet they're going to use this data to try to cause inequality in funding for certain facilities over other ones, or to use these legislative allies of his are going to use the data to try to get themselves reelected. So this is like robbing your house. What Governor J.B. Pritzker did with the signing of this law, it's like robbing your house and then showing up at the neighborhood watch meeting and saying, folks, we really need to get locks around here. Okay, better locks around here. Like, okay, it's like robbing houses and then showing up to the neighborhood watch meeting and saying, hey, we ought to get new locks. That is what's going on. And I don't buy it. I want the data just as much as the next guy, and we deserve the data and we deserve good policy, but I just don't buy it. And I don't think it's going to happen. The law only requires annual reporting as well. I think it should, that's once a year. I think that it should go further than that. I feel like the numbers every at least 3 months or quarter should be released. That would be in the best interest of everybody, I think, because, a lot can happen in a year. And I feel like if you have that data every 3 months, you'd be able to make the changes in your state prison and less people would die. Right. So I'm worried that they're going to cherry pick the numbers. They're going to bury the bad news in the middle of a holiday weekend or something like that. They'll bury the data and they'll use the statistics to weaponize as weapons. And they will use it to get themselves reelected. That's what I'm worried about, the data. Not that I wouldn't have voted for this bill. And like I said, another whole point of this controversy that I kind of brought up a little bit was the drugs being soaked in physical mail. The inmates are getting high by licking the physical mail. They're getting soaked in chemicals that they can get high off of, or they're smoking the actual paper itself in these prisons. So other states have adopted, this has been going on in other states across the nation. Other states have adopted a scanning mail system. And like I said, safety should be the first priority. And I get it. These criminal justice groups are going to say that, hey, we can't risk losing this correspondence for our inmates. They rely on it too much. It's a very important form of correspondence between inmate and family, the physical mail part of it. And if you scan the mail, it's an invasion of privacy, or, they're not going to get the mail in time, or they're not going to get the mail on their birthday, right? The birthday card on the birthday. Look, I get it. Family letters matter. It's one of the few human connections that we have left is physical mail. And I'm all for physical mail, but we're talking about fentanyl soaked envelopes. Okay. And our correctional officers, they've been actually collapsing from exposure due to this stuff. And I feel like safety ought to come first. And then we worried about, whether inmate, Sally gets her birthday card from grandma. Let's make sure Sally lives first, right? Because that's true compassion. I want Sally to live. I want the correctional officers to live, and I don't want fentanyl getting into the prison because it's all about safety, and it should be safety first. So this debate shows a deeper problem. Illinois doesn't want to face the root causes because once you admit, because like I said, they don't even need the data at this point. They could definitely do more punitive type measures or accountability measures within the state prisons right now. They could do it all right now, and they could crack down on it right now. Other states have with anecdotal data. We have correctional officers who are saying that this is going on, and that's anecdotal data. We could do it with the anecdotal data. You know what I mean? What's stopping you from doing it with the word of a correctional officer? We should trust our correctional officers. They're the ones who are putting their lives on the line every single day and making the sacrifices. Let's trust them, the experts, right? And let's respond. And let's put safety first. We don't even need the data to respond. Senator Jason Plummer, he nailed it. He said that, the prison system has to appoint leadership. Now, one thing LaToya Hughes is not a leader. I think she's a diversity pick. She's got to be. Okay, she was appointed in 2023 as the acting director of the Illinois Department of Corrections, another Springfield bureaucrat, playing musical chairs. They do this all the time. Like, this director serves here in this agency, that director, that director, that director. And they gave her this acting title because, God forbid, they actually put a competent person, a permanent person in this position and allow that person to clean house and to invoke these accountability measures, even if they seem unfairly punitive at the time. Okay, invoke them anyway and crack down on it, and then we'll phase in a system that allows the inmates to have perks, or like the physical mail and privileges, and we'll phase in their privileges back. Okay, it should be about safety first. Illinois, it's really not a problem. I would say it's a leadership problem. Everything falls from leadership. Okay, so you got to have a good leader in there. LaToya Hughes, not. So, all right. Let me tie this in with scripture, and then I'm going to shift gears, and then we're going to talk about a little something different. I want you to think just bigger than prisons. Okay, this is how Illinois government works. Think about pensions, think about taxes, think about crime in Chicago, think about every single crisis the state has. It's the same fingerprints. It's corruption. It's secrecy. It's not revealing the data. It's these political games when they do have the data, and the political posturing after they've gotten the data. Like, prisons are just the latest example of this. So schools, they do the same thing in schools, by the way. So, like, with the evidence-based funding, right? Let's get the data. And like, if the kids can't read or do math at grade level, that means that this school needs more money. And what do we do with that more money? We just hire more administrators. Okay. And that's corruption. We raise the taxes for our pensions and stuff like that. Like, it's just the same thing over and over again. It's just corruption, secrecy, and political games. So here's the hope. Truth is on our side, and the truth will always come out. And as Christians, we know the ultimate judge is watching. Galatians 6:7 says, "Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows." Governor J.B. Pritzker and his allies, they can mock transparency all they want, but in the end, corruption will get exposed. And I'm hoping that this data and that this law does that. I'm hoping that they actually publish the data. We'll have to see. So what do we do from here? First, we pray for our correctional officers. We pray for the front lines. We pray for the people who are often forgotten, and they're dealing the most with the consequences of Springfield corruption. These people who are on the front lines, the correctional officers. So we pray for them. Second, we demand real transparency. Annual reports, not just annual reports. We should have quarterly reports and not just glossy press releases. We need real-time data, real accountability. With as much technology as we've got, we should be able to have like a daily number of how much contraband has gotten into each state prison. And we should make that publicly available. Like, hey, today we had 4 incidences of contraband, they should be able to do that in real time, even with the freaking technology that we've got today. Third, we have to fight for liberty. And it doesn't just stop at the prison gates. Okay. If government can lie about prisons, they can lie about schools, and they're already doing it. So they're manipulating the data. They're required to put out this data about math and reading scores. And now they're lowering the standards for proficiency. So it's going to look like on paper that the kids are doing better than they actually are. So we have to demand not just transparency at the prisons, but we have to demand it out of our schools. And this is why we do the show. We do it to bring light, and we keep Christ at the center of the conversation, and we expose corruption when others would rather ignore that corruption, put their head in the sand. Illinois deserves better. America deserves better. And as long as I've got this microphone, we're going to keep telling the truth. All right. I'm going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to be talking a little bit about the Conant High School. This is in northern Illinois. And we're going to be talking about a male student who made the girls' volleyball team, and parents, of course, stood out against this. It's a complete circus. I think this happened right around Hoffman Estates, Palatine, somewhere around there. It's like Northern Illinois. And the parents were real upset, and they went to a board meeting. So we're going to share that story with you next. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends. I'll be right back. Welcome back to Conservative Cat Clips, and this is the show that gives corruption a name, a face, and a one-way ticket to exposure. I'm Kat, and today we are taking a really hard look at the unholy alliance between Michael Madigan and the unions he used like pawns in his political empire. So let's be clear, unions in theory, sure, fair wages, nice, safe workplaces, all good. But under Madigan, unions weren't about workers. They were about votes, money, and absolute political control. Let's dig into it, shall we? Madigan built a fortress of influence using public sector unions, especially teachers, electrical workers, laborers, AFSCME. How'd he do it? Easy. He passed contracts that favored unions with big raises, ironclad job security, and pension sweeteners that simply Illinois could not afford. That's why we have the pension debt. Okay. In return, those unions pumped millions of dollars into campaign coffers, nearly $10 million from AFSCME alone, mostly directed to Madigan's machine-approved candidates. You get the contract, I get the cash, the taxpayers get screwed. This is a corruption carousel that we are on. It sounds familiar. Look at Illinois' pension crisis. Over $130 to $140 billion in pension debt and counting. Madigan and his union pals made promises that the state could never keep up just to win short-term votes. That's why we're in the pension crisis, stupid. Now we're stuck with the bill while they enjoy six-figure retirements at the age of 55. This wasn't just about money, though. Madigan used unions to intimidate the opposition. If you ran for office without a union backing, they'd swarm your district with mailers and door hangers and smear ads, and it's impossible to win if the union is backing said candidate. And they'll use the union to swarm your district, and you could never win against a Madigan machine-approved candidate. And this still goes on today in many areas of Illinois. You didn't run against Madigan, you ran against his union army, and it's still the case today. And then it's changed a little bit. Maybe it's unions and a little bit of nonprofit sector as well. In many areas of Illinois, you didn't run against Madigan or a Madigan candidate. You ran against an army. The best examples of this is in 2018, Madigan's campaign machine sent union-backed operatives to attack Democratic reform candidates. Okay, yes, even people of his own party. Okay, if they dared question his ethics or if they dared run against one of his handpicked puppets, they would go and they'd send union-backed operatives to go and attack Democrat reform candidates. Not quite literally, but, you know, the door hangers, the smear campaigns, all of that. And they had the money to do it because they kept getting the contracts from the government, from Madigan. And he had all the money in the world to do it because he kept getting the money from the unions. It's just this carousel, and you just keep getting screwed as a taxpayer. So don't forget about the shady deals. One union-linked lobbyist said that he felt obligated to hire Madigan's people just to get access to Springfield. That's not representation. That's racketeering with a pension plan. Okay. Now, even with Madigan under indictment and facing sentencing, he has 22 counts of corruption. Those union ties still linger. The same union leaders that backed him for decades, they're still sitting pretty. They're still funding candidates who won't touch reform with the 10-foot pole. None of these candidates want to touch reform with 10-foot pole. Nobody's really denounced Madigan's political machine. Governor J.B. Pritzker surely hasn't. And this has been Conservative Cat Clips, reminding you that unions have become political weapons when solidarity becomes code. Solidarity is code. That word is code for corruption. And when the taxpayer is left holding the bag, that's not labor, that's a scam. Okay. Michael Madigan may be out of office, but his legacy lives on with bloated budgets, crony contracts, union bosses who still pull the strings from behind closed doors. And here's your homework, my folks in Illinois. Follow the money, follow the endorsements, follow the corruption, because it always leads back to the same machine. This has been Conservative Cat Clips. Hey, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. So today we are kind of diving into this circus. It's in northern Illinois, Hoffman Estates area, where boys will be boys situation has kind of turned into a boys pretending to be girls crisis. So we've gone a long way from boys will be boys to boys are trying to pretend to be girls here at this high school. It's Conant High School. Ladies and gentlemen, a biological male made a girls volleyball team. Okay. And the parents, the teachers, coaches, they are blowing the whistle and they're saying, stop this. And let me tell you, it's louder than a referee whistle at a championship game. Okay. A referee's whistle at a championship game. The parents are being very loud about this. So grab your coffee, strap in, because for the next, few minutes, we're going to be talking a little bit about this story because it really digs in to a deeper sickness infecting our schools, our culture, and our politics, this story. So it's not just happening at Conant High. We know that. So here's a play-by-play of what happened. A male student, yes, male, made a girls volleyball team. I played volleyball. Yeah, no. Men should not be on, or boys should not be on girls volleyball teams. It's absolutely ridiculous. One young lady, she actually didn't make the team. She didn't make a spot on the team. She didn't make the cut. And she went home in tears. And get this, the boy, he wound up quitting the volleyball team. Okay. The very next day. So he made the team, quit. And, these girls got robbed of a spot, and they kind of got robbed for nothing because the kid is, still, or is off the volleyball team because he quit. So let's sum up this insanity, the insanity of the woke policy. I want to sum this up. Girls lose, boys win. Okay. This is anti-female policy. This is anti-girls policy. What is going on at the District 211 Conant High School. Okay. So parents at District 211, they took issue with the policy. They were furious. There's actually a woman. Her name is Karen Powers. She's a woman or a mother of a Conant graduate. And she let the board have it. And she said, quote, "It's not a girl's responsibility to feel uncomfortable or unsafe for the sake of a boy pretending to be a girl. He should be participating in sports designated for boys because he will always be one." Okay. And that's the truth. That's basic biology. And that's the kind of truth we used to teach in kindergarten before drag queens replaced, the alphabet and our ABCs. There was another mom. Her name was Angela Chrisman. She went right towards the locker room issue because this policy is just wrong, where, boys can go into the girls' locker rooms or bathrooms, and girls can go into the boys' locker rooms or bathrooms. And she went right for the locker room issue, this Chrisman woman, saying her daughter should never be told to undress in front of a biological male, sometimes 6'4" biological male. Some high school boys get really, really big. And she called it criminal. And she's right. If there was an adult male, and this was a situation where he forced himself into the bathroom with females, we would call that child endangerment. Forced himself into a high school girls' bathroom. If an adult male did that, we would call it criminal. But when the school allows this to go on under the, rainbow banner of inclusion, suddenly it's progressive and it's not criminal. No, this is criminal to allow boys into girls' bathrooms. And vice versa, to allow girls into boys' bathrooms. So here's the reality. Every girl in Illinois now has fewer rights than a confused boy who wants to play dress up. I think about that. every girl in Illinois has fewer rights than a boy who's just confused and wants to play dress up. It's like all they want is for this boy to change in a single stall. He can go change in the single stall. Taxpayers pay for the single stalls. Okay, in these bathrooms at Conant High School, they go change there, and like he doesn't have to stop being his transgender self. We're just asking that he don't force it on these girls, and that he don't participate in the girls division of volleyball. The Olympics they've even changed their policies on this. This is like an 80-20 issue, folks. Okay, the Olympics committee has changed their policy to hey, we recognize biological sex. The least they can do is do that for our high schoolers, right? Vicki Wilson, another mom, she hit the nail on the head. She said this to the board. She said, "You aren't even helping these kids. The kids you're prioritizing. If you actually cared about these kids, you wouldn't promote a dangerous ideology that turns them into lifelong patients." Yeah. So they're choosing one kid over another, okay? Because at the end of the day, that's it. They're choosing the confused boy over the majority of the girls in the team, okay? They're choosing one boy over a majority, and they're kind of giving preferential treatment to this boy simply because he's confused, but they're also at the same time not being compassionate towards this boy because they are condoning an ideology, a medical ideology that would result in him becoming a lifelong patient and ultimately would he's at risk for suicide if he goes down this path, okay? Like they're far more at risk. Transgender individuals are far more at risk post-op and pre-op. So whether they get the surgery or not, or whether they take hormones or not, they're all at risk, high risk of suicide. So if you love somebody and they say they're transgender, say, don't, you're going to die. Because statistically, that's what happens to transgender people. Okay? Whether you transition, you don't, they just always kill themselves. So if you loved these people, you'd say, don't do this. You're going to be at risk for suicide if you go down this path. So right there, it's really not about helping the trans kids because this is such a dangerous ideology, such a dangerous medical ideology that ultimately makes them into lifelong patients and has them go through not only emotional traumas, but physical traumas. It's about money, it's about power, and it's about pushing an agenda that helps clinics, big pharma, and the so-called gender-affirming industry. Okay, it's a machine that feeds on confusion and that thrives on confused kids. And what better place to sow confusion than high school? And the shame on all the adults in the room because they're sowing confusion in this high school and they're feeding right into the hands of these people who are very, very powerful. The big pharmas, the clinics, the gender affirming industry, they're feeding right into their hands, eating right out of their hands. So parents at this board meeting, they referenced a heartbreaking story. And I've shared the video before of Patty McNabb. She was a young girl. I think this was at a collegiate level. I'd have to double check on that. Fact check me if you know Peyton McNabb, whether she was a collegiate ball player. I'll double check it here in a second. But she faced permanent brain damage after a trans athlete spiked a volleyball into her face in 2022. Permanent damage. Now, I've been whacked in the head a few times in volleyball. I was a big volleyball player. I loved it. I've been whacked in the head with the ball. I've been ran over. I've slipped on some sweat on the floor, which is very common in volleyball, by the way, which is why volleyball players tend to wear tight, like spandex or you got to have your skin on the ground or so that way you don't slip. Like it's very, very slippery. And if you are in spandex and you slip on the floor, your skin can grab onto the floor much better than clothes. So it's to stop you from sliding onto the floor. So I've slid, I've slide. I've been hit in the face. I've never been hit in the face by a guy with volleyball. If I would have been, I probably would not be here today speaking to you this morning on a Friday, August 22nd. Okay. Most likely I would be gone or be suffering permanent brain damage, much like this girl, Peyton McNabb. So supporters of the boys and girls sports say, well, the girls, give other girls injuries too. Yeah, but not to that extent. That's kind of like saying, yeah, well, let's just have the linebackers join the cheer squad. Okay. Because, hey, accidents happen. I do know this. When I was in PE, there was this boy in my PE class. I think he had a crush on me. But he was constantly injuring me. Like with a yoga ball, we would play bleacher ball. After this incident, they actually banned it. He threw the bleacher ball so hard at me, I fell backwards and I broke my arm. Okay, sprained my foot and broke my arm. I was in a wheelchair because I couldn't crutch around because I had a broken arm. So I obviously couldn't crutch because I had a sprained ankle. So I was like in a wheelchair until my sprained ankle kind of recovered. And then I was able to walk around. But yeah, that's what happened to me. So it's like, yeah, you people are crazy to deny the biological realities here. Okay. Male bodies are just stronger, faster, taller. Anytime you mix men and women in any kind of athletic activity, there's always women who are going to get hurt. And that's not hate speech. It's just basic biology. That's just physiology. Okay. Pretending otherwise is just dishonest and it's dangerous. So this isn't the first rodeo up in that area. Conant High School, actually back in 2015, this is about a decade ago, very same district, different high school. They had an incident where the Barack Obama Department of Education, they caved to the Barack Obama Department of Education. There was a male student who demanded access to a female's locker room. The district ultimately said, no, you can't do that, little Timmy, right? I don't know their names, but the Obama bureaucrats threatened them with sanctions. And guess what happened? They surrendered and they let the boy in back in 2015. So here we are a decade later, reaping what was sown. See, so they caved back in 2015. Now the school board, they are bowing to the federal government or to this gender ideology once again. But this time they're not following the federal government because the federal government Trump executive order has demanded that they don't do this, okay, via law. Now, what they should do is sanction. From here, what Donald Trump's administration should do is sanction all schools or cut funding to schools who practice this gender ideology stuff, which I think is what they are going to do. I know they're doing that at a collegiate level. Pam Bondi has issued letters before and said, hey, colleges, if you're doing the diversity, equity, and all that crap, and you're awarding scholarships based on sexual orientation, if people are gay or not, you are not going to be provided federal funding. They should do that at a high school level as well, K through 12. If these schools are going to be doing this, and if they're going to be caving to the woke mob, then they need to be sanctioned because guess what? Barack Obama did it back in 2015, right? They need to have their federal funds revoked from them. This is why elections matter. They caved back then, and they're kind of reaping what they sow now. They caved to the leftist ideology back then, 10 years ago. They're caving to it again. Your school board races matter. You give control to people who believe boys can be girls, you end up with locker room chaos and with crying daughters. And this just isn't about Hoffman Estates or this Conant High School. This happened in Naperville. We know the middle school track meet, the national controversy that turned into a national controversy where there was a biological male who raced against 7th grade girls. Okay. And the parents erupted over that. They showed up to the school board meetings in Deerfield, Illinois. There was middle school girls who were reportedly forced to change their clothes in front of a biological male. A mother went to the Justice Department, begged for help, went viral on social media. From what I can understand, nothing has really changed. I hope that we we fight as hard, like the Trump administration should fight as hard as the Department of Justice or as Department of Education did under Barack Obama, right? Our DOJ, our departments, our Donald Trump's administration, they should fight just as hard and just as dirty, and they should get down in the mud and throw some punches and throw some elbows, just like the Barack Obama administration did back in 2015. The Illinois High School Association, they have openly defied Trump's executive orders. And since 2011, they have allowed transgender athletes to compete in girls' sports, boys to compete in girls' sports. That's 14 years of stolen opportunities. That's 14 years of girls sitting on the sidelines while boys prance around in fake ponytails and take their sports away, okay? So we really need this to change. You know, this is a policy that's been decades long, and this really needs to change, and they need to do right by females and give females their rights back. So let's take a step back for a moment. As Christians, we are called to love every person. Okay, this little boy on the volleyball team, and he is little, he's a high schooler. We're called to love him, and in that, we should tell him the truth. Okay, love means telling somebody the truth, even if it's hard. So love doesn't mean cheering on somebody's confusion. In Genesis 1:27, male and female, he created them. He didn't create 72 genders, God. Right? He created male and female, and that's design, and that's the truth. And the word is the truth, the Bible, right? So when the school tells our daughters to dress in front of boys, they're not just violating privacy, okay, and the rights of these girls, they are violating God's order. Like I said, everything that comes from the left is just the antithesis of the Bible. They're not very original people. Male and female, he created them. Hey, let's come up with other genders outside of female and male. That's what the left did, okay? So when parents stand up, they're not just fighting for fairness in sports, okay? They are fighting for the dignity God gave their daughters. They are fighting for order and the biblical order in which God had created his design, male and female. Okay, so here's my 3-point plan. Parents, show up. And I really think that people should start taking to the microphone and reciting this verse. Genesis 1:27. Chapter 1, verse 27. They should recite that, and they should make it even bigger than just fairness in sports, because this is an attack on order and truth. So don't just complain at the dinner table. Show up, go to your board meetings, take to the microphone, shine a light on their lies. Run for office, school board, city council, get on the ballot. Don't let the left stack the deck with their activists, because they will. Protect your daughters. Teach them that they are fearfully and wonderfully made. Teach them to stand firm and to not be afraid to say no when the world pressures them to comply with insanity. So that's my 3-step plan. Hope you liked it. That's my call to action, folks. It's very simple. The simple truth is that girls' sports are for girls. Locker rooms for girls are for girls. Privacy, fairness, and safety, these are not negotiable. Okay, these are things that these adults in the room should be prioritizing. The left says inclusion, I say intrusion. They say equity, I say theft. They are stealing opportunities away from these young women who work, train, sweat, and compete. And for what? To appease an ideology that's really built on lies, as we've unpacked here, Genesis 1:27. But there's good news. Okay, parents are rising up. Naperville, Deerfield, this Hoffman Estates, Conant, I think that's where that is, high school. It's all kind of up north. So, they are standing up. Moms and dads are saying enough. And when people of faith and truth stand together, the gates of hell and the gates of this district 211, they will not prevail. Okay, so let's stand tall for our daughters, for fairness, for truth. All right, that's going to do it. Let me get to some of your comments. Boycotting this woke. Sorry. Yeah. Cracker Barrel. We talked about that this morning. We are boycotting Cracker Barrel. I didn't boycott in 2023. Good morning. More jackass hijinks to cover. Yeah. There's so much to cover this morning. Scott Robbins, he's from the Markley, Van Camp and Robbins show. Go check it out. Type it in your search bar on social media. Yeah, there's just so much jackassery going on today. I covered Gavin Newsom this morning, Governor Gavin Hairgel, Newsom. And his social media strategy team, I think that they're trying to kind of take a page out of Trump's playbook when it comes to social media. And they're being very bold about it and very nasty. Like, Donald Trump isn't nasty, like, with his, they're kind of like punchy, and they're funny, and they're, I wouldn't say that they're like distasteful. Like what Governor Gavin Newsom doing is doing with his social media strategy, especially with Bed Bath and Beyond, where he like took a stab at them for going bankrupt a couple of years ago, which rightfully so. Bed Bath and Beyond went woke and they stopped selling Mike Lindell pillows. And they're trying to make a comeback, but him being a leader, him being somebody of a leader of a state who is suffering an unemployment rate of 5.5%. That is the nation's highest unemployment rate. He is in no position to be cocky, to be quippy. Okay. Donald Trump is a winner, which is why he's in the position to make mean tweets or to be kind of like quippy on social media. Gavin, you are not in a position to be quippy or funny on social media. Your state sucks. There's a mass exodus going on. You should be falling over your feet you're falling over yourself at the feet of Bed Bath & Home and begging them to come to your state to address the unemployment rate. So yeah, we covered a lot this morning, folks. If you missed any of the show, rewind, subscribe, and we'll be back again Monday morning, bright and early, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Bye-bye. Love you so much. Have a blessed weekend and stay safe out there.